You're listening to the Amplify podcast, where we discuss topics related to being a student at the University of Michigan. Hello, friends. This episode is about student government and advocacy. June and I realized that we really didn't know much about what student government does, and when we talked to our peers and friends, they agreed that many of us are in the dark about how to advocate for ourselves as students. To help break this down, we have a special guest with us today. Joe Lobodzinski is an elected representative in student government and the vice chair of the Committee Advocating for Transfer Students, also known as CATS. Thanks so much for joining us, Joe.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
So we can get started. We'll learn a little bit more about you. Where are you from? What is your major? And how did you become a part of student government?
So, my name is Joe Lobodzinski. I'm a junior studying political science, minoring in modern European studies or Germanic studies in the College of Elyas and I transferred here last fall from Ferris State University after getting an associate's degree in tool design machining. So I kind of totally 180 studies there because I just found out that engineering wasn't really necessarily the calling for me. I worked in a few places and I just didn't necessarily like it. So I transferred here and kind of became active in different organizations, particularly within like the transfer student community. And I kind of found out that the transfer student community was kind of like underrepresented in more ways than one, particularly within student government. When I found out about it, like the CADS committee was like being run by like two people who weren't transfer students, and so I wanted to get a little bit involved. And so this past spring I ran for student government and got elected, and now I'm the vice chair of CADS.
That's awesome. Well, for one, let me say, people change their majors, right? So I think it's a great thing that you were able to recognize, like, maybe I'm good at this, but that doesn't mean I want to be doing it. Respect for you. I think sometimes people, they jump into a major and they're like, I'm just going to do this because I'm already doing it. So I'm just going to keep doing it. Elyas. So respect to you for admitting, like, you know what, I'm just gonna do something you're more passionate about. And also, I love that you saw that CATS was being run by non-transfer students and saw like an issue with that. That happens a lot on campus, I've noticed, where people are kind of representing groups that they're not really a part of, and then they wonder why there's all these, miscommunications. So I would just want to throw some respect for you for stepping up to that. That's awesome.
And just kind of out of curiosity, just kind of with that, because you came as a transfer student into a space that was inhabited by like people who had been here their entire college careers, did you find any difficulty in kind of navigating, like, I guess, the political landscape of like student government?
Not necessarily. The people on student government are pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I have questions, like the executive board and other leadership are there to help me with it. The current like chair of the CATS committee, she's also a transfer student. So we kind of teamed up and we really cleaned up the that whole committee. But I really, really respect the people in student government. They're really nice, and we're trying our best to include all different groups within the University of Michigan and within the College of Literature and Science and Arts.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I also just want to throw out there that, transfer students, we're not really a monolith, right? Like there's also so many other kind of like subcultures within. For example, I'm a transfer student, but I'm also a first generation student, and I'm also a non-traditional student. And all of those things kind of mix together for me. And so sometimes it feels like things that have been catering to transfer students still miss the mark for people like me who maybe still don't quite fit in. And so, yeah, really trying to include a lot of different groups within what it means to be a transfer student, I think is really important. So I appreciate that work. So moving on, what would you say the function of student government is? What does a meeting look like, for example? And what examples of work are there that you guys have done in the last year?
Well, student government is pretty much just that. We're a government for the students, and we try and advocate for student voices on campus to different bodies like the administration uh, and faculty. Just just doing that, raising our voices in solidarity for causes that we we believe that will make life better for students on campus. And what we usually do is that every Wednesday, 8 p.m., all elected reps, the executive board, we come together and we talk policy and different issues facing student body on campus. And usually it's a meeting that lasts like 3 hours, and each committee explains what they've been doing, what they're trying to accomplish, and then we bring bills forth for the elective reps to vote on. And over the past year, and not to toot my own horn, but we've done a lot, and I'm
Go
really
on,
happy
go on
about
and
it.
brag.
Yeah.
We love to hear it. What'd you do?
I'm not somebody to brag, but we did a lot. This past September with the GO strike and the RES staff strike, we issued statements of solidarity, and many of our members took part in those strikes. And we knew how important what the GO and RES staff was advocating for the student body. And, we did a lot of things to help them for that. And right now, actually, this last week, we just passed a bill pressuring the administration to make this semester pass no record COVID, just like this past spring. That way it can just alleviate a little bit of academic anxiety
That's great.
right now. So yeah, that's what we've heard. A lot of people are really stressed out, and we want to do as much as we can. And another thing, our health committee is making care packages for students quarantining in Northwood.
Oh, wow.
I know that, yeah. So we heard that that was a huge issue, and rightfully so. This past September during the GEO strike, we heard that the living conditions there were pretty abysmal, and we did what we can to kind of express support for the people who were stuck there, and to pressure administration to make living conditions better for the people who were forced to live there after quarantine. So we've been doing a lot. We also give funding for student orgs on campus to initiate virtual events that are adhering to COVID social distancing guidelines, just trying to make it as easy as possible for people to socialize, because I know that's kind of a hard thing to do right now with everything that's going on.
Kind of to that point, have you noticed it? Have you noticed any difficulties with kind of adjusting to an online environment within student government? Just kind of like, I guess, getting day-to-day stuff done?
It is kind of difficult because, as you probably would know, there's a certain aspect of like face-to-face communication that you lose.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Through virtual conversation. And that's so in any other government, that's kind of how a lot of business gets done. So I mean, it does dampen communication a little bit, but we're doing our best to just communicate with one another and do what's best for the student body here.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
I love the list of things that you guys are doing. I didn't know things were bad. I don't live in Ann Arbor right now. I moved back to Grand Rapids this summer because of everything being online. So I'm not like really up to date on a lot of what's going on in Ann Arbor. I didn't know that students were struggling like that at North Campus, you said. So yeah, I really appreciate that you guys listen to their needs and
it's
were able
amazing.
to reach out for them. I think that's so important right now for us to support each other as students. Yeah, I love that. So moving forward, tell us more about CATS. So I guess my confusion too is like, is CATS a part of student government? Is it separate from student government? What are the issues that CATS addresses specifically in comparison to what student government does? Yeah, if you could clarify that for us, that'd be great.
So yeah, CATS is a part of student government. We're a committee within student government, and CATS, like as you said earlier, stands for Committee Advocating for Transfer Students. So our main objective is to make life better on campus for transfer students, not only transfer students, but non-traditional students such as yourself, veterans who may be transferring here right from the armed forces, and also international students. So we try our best to make everything better and easier for them, not only uh, for when they're on campus, but when they're acclimating to everything, because it's a really big jump. Like I can attest from like my personal experience when I transferred here, when I first got here, like coming from like a smaller college, you're like, well, this is huge. There's a lot of people here. Like, am I like sort of like the big game sort of person that deserves to be like a student at the University of Michigan?
Totally, I hear
And
that.
yeah, so like there's like so many things that were kind of like running through my head at that time, and like I had to know, I knew like I wasn't the only person with that sort of feeling. So I joined as many transfer student organizations as I can, and found out like yeah, a lot of people were thinking same as me, and those thoughts weren't necessarily being advocated on campus as much as they should be, and I decided to join student government, a few other organizations to sort of address those problems. And CATS is mainly sort of the main thing within student government that tries to address these problems. And for example, we're trying to make it easier for students to petition classes. For example, it's kind of hard to transfer classes here. I mean, like
That's very true.
yeah, like a lot of my classes just like bounced off, and they weren't applied for like different sections within my undergrad degree. So I feel like we're just kind of getting ripped off there, and we just want to make it easier for people to petition it and advocate. Like, yeah, I learned this at my previous institution. Why should I come here and just regurgitate it? It makes no sense.
Right.
So that's one thing we're doing. We're also trying to advocate for housing for transfer students, because when I came here, I heard about like the transfer student living community. I think it was called the transfer year experience, and like outside of that, there really wasn't much of anything besides, well, you could go and like try and integrate within the dorms, which right now is kind of a hellish idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the best.
And then you have uh, the sort of like the living situation in Arbor. Like if I wanted to rent an apartment, just all the different hoops I would have to jump through for that. And I feel like we were kind of stuck in like some sort of like lingo, some sort of like dead space in which we weren't really have like the transfer housing that we kind of needed. So we're trying to make it easier for transfer students like to find a place that they're comfortable with, to find housing that's decent. And I know that COVID is really like taking a hit on this, so we're putting the pedal to the metal, trying to figure things out. But that's just one thing that we're trying to do.
Yeah,
Just kind of
I
on that.
appreciate that. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so just like kind of to dig a little bit deeper on that. Are you putting together sort of resources for transfer students to figure out themselves like what housing is like a good fit for them? Or is it more along the lines of actually working with like some of the landlords in the area and the university and trying to get those accommodations, I guess, from the actual rental agencies?
Yeah. So as you would know, I mean, I don't know if either of you live in Ann Arbor. I know June said like she moved
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
Grand Rapids, but like you gotta sign leases like in October, November, December,
Yeah.
and when I got my like admissions letter, it was like late January, early February. So like I already
Right.
lost like precious time. And on
Totally.
top of that, like I had no idea uh, where to like particularly move in because like housing didn't send me an email till like a month and a half later, uh,
Right.
like telling me about like the different options on campus and like how you can apply and all that other stuff. So right now we're just trying to make it easier for transfer students by sending like that housing email right
Mm.
after they get like their admissions letter, and so that way at least you have a little bit of time, to figure things out. And then on that email there'll be different resources like landlords, uh, co-ops like the one I'm living in right now, and dorms.
Mhm.
If just any route you want to go down, it, there should be options, and you should learn about them as soon as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Like cutting out that dead space. Yeah.
Yeah. Which co-op do you live in?
So I live in the Ann Arbor ICC co-op. I live in Escher House in North Campus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't personally ever want to live in a co-op, but I do love hanging out at co-ops. It's usually a good time, good people. In fact, last year when I was in Ann Arbor, um, the first friends that I really made that I considered like actual friends were from a co-op, and like them inviting me over for their like Tuesday night dinner. And um, yeah, so shout out Vale House. Um, but yeah, so that's cool. And I love that work. I know I keep saying that. I'm just like, yeah, go Joe, go Joe. Um,
It does
but
sound like you're doing a lot. Yeah.
yeah, no, I think it's really great. I think we picked a great person to have on the show.
Like
I'm
every single one
flattered.
of like every single one of these things you're talking about are issues that like when I was coming here for the first time, I'm like, yep, that sucked. That sucked. I had to deal with that one. So yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. I'm glad that someone's like doing something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're also trying to like mend like sort of like the social gap, if you want to call it, because like I said, like when you come to campus, particularly as a transfer student, like you don't know what to do. You don't know what organizations to join, and like
Mhm.
particularly with COVID killing things like Festival and
Right.
just other like in-person meetings that make it very valuable to meet people and to be able to uh, connect with people and to join organizations. We're trying our best to just not only as CAS but as like a student government to make it easier for people to socialize and join orgs. So that's another thing I just want to plant into this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, that's actually that's definitely something we've been working on at Optimize. And I mean, that's a big part of what inspired this podcast actually was, normally the things we're talking about in some of these episodes, we maybe would hold an event for, or
Mhm.
have like learn about student government, thing in room, whatever, there'll be pizza, and people could come like talk about these things in person. And so because it's not really an option right now, being able to have a podcast where students can listen and learn about some of these things just on their own time, and in a safe way, was really important to us because, I think we are really missing out on a lot of that connection that we could have had if we were in person. Amplify used to put on, like transfer nights and like all these different things.
Yeah.
And while Amplify is still putting on these events, so if anyone listening, please feel free to reach out to us. And, you can come to the events we put on. You can be a part of the Social Innovation Challenge. Really, know that these things still exist However, the dynamic has changed quite a lot because of the pandemic, and it doesn't appear to be ending anytime soon, at least for the rest of this academic year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what Katz is doing is really important. And yeah, thanks for clearing that up. I feel like I understand a lot more now.
Yeah, I mean, like Amplify Nights is definitely something like pre-COVID that I miss.
Yeah.
It was. I just remember it being like pretty chill, and like before the LSA building like reopened after they remodeled it, we'd have it like I think it was in the International Building, like the Weiser Center,
Yeah.
Right.
and like we'd just bring pizza and people would chill and just like
Yeah.
talk, and like that's a huge thing. It's like especially when you're new to some place, it's a very
Yeah.
big thing.
And you're
That's
like,
pretty
how do I
interesting.
even make friends, you know? I know for me, because I'm older, um, and I always say that, oh, I'm older. And I know, and I'm like, I'm not old, but like I'm 27, almost 28. Um, it was really awkward for me to try to make friends with like 19-year-olds because I just felt mad, like desperate.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
They wouldn't get like your Black Eyed Peas references or like
right.
anything
No,
else.
exactly. Like I'm over here, I'm like, millennial memes are so different from the younger people memes. I like the young people memes, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean?
The
Yeah,
young
there's
people memes.
the yeah, the youngins, them and their damn memes. But yeah, it wasn't, I didn't always know exactly how to fit in, and uh and not feel like kind of weird about it. And also, even just being like, oh, I can't even just be like, hey, do you want to go grab a drink? Like, this person's 19 years old.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
But like for me at this point, like I don't even think about that a lot of the time. It's been so long since my 21st birthday that I just like kind of assume in my mind, like everybody can go out to the club with me. It's like, no, you gotta hang out with people like at the library or something. I don't know what you guys do.
Yeah, yeah. No, like I can attest to that. Like, so when I transferred here, I lost like a year, so I'm technically a senior. I'm 21, but I'm junior
Mhm.
credits wise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
same.
like when I turned like 21, and I was like texting me like, "Hey, let's go out." And it's like, "Oh, I'm not 21 yet." I'm like, "Oh, that's right."
Right.
Like it's
Oh.
like I can attest to that.
Yeah. So it was weird for me when I came, and having events like Amplify Nights and places where like I could go and hang out and I didn't have to feel like weird or desperate or awkward. It was like everybody here is just trying to meet friends
Mhm.
and stuff. And so it I didn't feel as bad about it. And yeah, events like that were really special, and it's sad that we can't really put them on in the same way now, because the reality is that we're all on our computers all day long trying to stay on top of all of our schoolwork, trying to make it to every meeting. And so going to a virtual event while you're already on your computer all day, it's just not as enticing as
Yeah.
being able to like go free pizza,
Yeah,
and
like
stuff
you're
like
already in
that.
the neighborhood. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, or oh, I'm walking. I did that sometimes too, just like walking by stuff and seeing signs that say, "Oh, this thing is happening right now." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I have 45 minutes till my next class. I could pop." And you just like end up
Yeah.
Yeah,
popping in and doing all this stuff, and it's still, even with all of that, was hard to create community for myself, I felt. But at least it was like a step in that direction. So not having that now is difficult. Obviously, I'm back in Grand Rapids now, I'm back in my comfort zone, uh, where like I have plenty of friends and stuff here. Um, but assuming classes go back to quote unquote normal next fall, I'll probably have to move back to Ann Arbor again.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that at least now I have Optimize, and I know that I can always hang out with that crew. It's pretty good crew. Love Optimize. So anyway, to go on to our last questions, if our listeners want to get involved and run for office in student government or CATS, where should they go to get started on that kind of a process if they're interested?
well, if you want to join Cats, you can always email me at my email. joelobo@umich.edu, joelobo@umich.edu. And what I can do is I'll put you on our email listserv. Every Tuesday, I'll send out like the Zoom link for our committee meetings that we have on Wednesday at 5:00 p.m. And then if you just want to get involved in general student government, we have our meetings every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Subject to change sometimes, but nonetheless, we'll update it on our website. So the Zoom link is on our website, and the link for that is lsa.umich.edu/LSASG. And, we have what we call constituents time, and during that time, you can just voice your opinions and, what we should tackle next, what we should do. And fun fact that if you come to 3 consecutive meetings out of 5, you get to become appointed an associate rep, in which you gain speaking privileges and, you further your voice within our meetings. But if you want to run, sadly, the deadline for running this fall semester just passed. It was October 29th. And even though that passed, you can still be involved. You can still come to our committee meetings. We plan on having another election this upcoming spring, so that'd be something to look forward to if anybody's interested in that. Other than that, just don't be afraid to contact somebody who's afraid of student government. I mean, their whole sort of job is to communicate with you as like an elective rep. So, I'm pretty sure like if you just like DM somebody that who's on student government, like, yeah, absolutely. And they'll forward you like the Zoom link or whatever you need.
Yeah.
And then
that's great.
a lot of those links we'll also put in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. So they'll be there too.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Joe, for joining us. It really means
Thank
a
you.
lot for us to have some of that clarified. We hope listeners have a better understanding of how to advocate for themselves and each other at the university. And yeah, thanks again to our special guest. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And this is my first podcast, so I mean,
You did great.
Cool.
You did great.
Awesome. Cool.
So yeah, we
You're
will look
amazing.
forward to seeing you again. You have all my information now too, so of course always feel free to reach out as well. Thanks for all the work that you're doing for us and for our community as students. I think it's really important work.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
The Amplify podcast is supported by Optimize, an organization here at U of M that empowers students to be creative in how we serve each other and our communities near and far. To learn more about Optimize programming, please visit optimizemi.org. If you have topics you would like to hear discussed, let us know at optimizemi@umich.edu. Thanks and be well.